Alright gamers and zombies fans, welcome into the first part of a new series on the channel. Throughout the course of this series we will look at every single zombies map ever made and rank them on our tier list. This intro might be a bit long-winded as I'm explaining my criteria and how the tier list will work. If you want to skip all that, I will have a timestamp below. So how this will all work is I will play the zombies map, write down some broad point positives and negatives before expanding on them when I'm writing the script. I will then discuss these points in a video dedicated solely to this map and place it somewhere on our tier list. How the tier list will work is different to how most other zombies YouTubers do their tier lists. I will place a map in a spot, but that may not be its final spot. I will have a limited number of spots per tier, and as more maps get added, a map may go up or down a tier depending on whether I like it more or less than those previously discussed, and then in the end I will have one mega video where I stitch all of these together and create a definitive tier list. If that's confusing, don't worry, it'll make more sense as the tier list expands. One final major note is that I will be basing these maps off my current playthrough and I will be holding them to a modern standard. There will be no nostalgia bias, so I may end up liking or disliking a map more than I used to when I used to love them. The purpose of this series is to rank the maps as they stand now, not as they stood when they release. Now, one final thing before we start talking about Nacht. If you do enjoy this video or any other of my zombies content, please leave a like to show some support. It lets me know to keep going. Let me know any ways to improve the series by leaving a comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy, as this is the largest series I've ever attempted and any amount of support is welcomed. Okay, let's start talking about Nacht. So Nacht represents a very unique map when it comes to not only World at War but also the entire zombies pantheon of maps. It is the very first map ever created, so it is basic, but it does that basic gameplay better than most, if not all, other maps that attempt to replicate that gameplay style later on in the series. The map opens with a really eerie tone-setting cutscene that really sets the mood for the future of not only this map, but I would argue at least the next map, if not the entire DLC cycle of World at War. This is actually unique for quite a while, as pre-rendered cutscenes would not be seen again until 5, and then again much later after that. This was not common at the time. This is another aspect that makes the map feel like it can stand on its own. Another major win for Nacht is the setting and the vibe of the map. The map is dark, brooding, and very much depressing to the player. It's you and 3 rooms in a ruined, bombed out bunker facing overwhelming horrors that will eventually win no matter what you do. I find the vibe of this map to be one of the strongest aspects of the map. I'm not saying it's scary, but it definitely has that creep factor that leaves you quite unnerved as you play. Something I also don't see discussed all that often when talking about Nacht is the sound design. This map is some of the most wild and creepy zombies noises I have ever heard in my time playing the mode. The zombies hiss, they scream, they groan, and I'm pretty sure I heard a zombie bark at one stage. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm fairly certain I did. I've not seen these sounds ever used in a later map, and I could be wrong, but I have to say I really like it that they were used here. It adds to the horror of the mode and the horror of the map. I would actually love to see the return to the expansion of the zombie noises, because as far as I'm aware, the zombies really don't change that much with what they say or the noises they make as the games continue. And I find the variety in noises really helps the atmosphere here, and it also, I think, is just a major win for this map in general. Another benefit the map has over some of the later maps is the power struggle that the average everyday zombie player will feel while playing on the map. You spawn in, you have no perks, no infinite damage on the weapon, no pack-a-punch, and no exfil. I know the flamethrower is infinite damage, but the average player doesn't really know how to effectively use the flamethrower to get to high rounds. It's just you, a really mixed bag of wall weapons placed there, and the mystery box. And the mystery box RNG in this is atrocious, at least for me. The zombies will eventually win for the average player, and there's just nothing you can really do about it. And I think that really makes the map feel quite unique in a sense that in later games you have exfils, you have Easter eggs that end the mode. In this, you're gonna lose. You have nothing really to help you against the horde. So I do have a bit of a mixed bag bit of feedback, which isn't a negative, but it's not necessarily a positive. So I'll just put it in between these two sections, and that is something that's not quite game breaking, but it can become quite annoying. Is the over reliance of the mystery box on the map? You have to use the box to get anything usable in the later rounds, and this means you are consistently hitting the box. In my gameplay that I just played for this video, I did not get the ray gun. And when I finally did manage to get the flamethrower, it took me upwards of 15 rounds to receive, which I just think it's a bit too long to get the one usable gun on the map. But it's not, again, not necessarily a negative. I just thought I would throw it out there. The RNG is really prevalent on this map, and for me in particular, I got a really bad roll of it last time I played, and it didn't dampen the experience. I just thought I would put it out there that if you're not a fan of overly reliant on RNG maps, this is probably not the map for you. Moving on to the negatives that I have when talking about this map, the largest complaint I have here is based on the early rounds. These early rounds just take forever to move through as the zombies spawn miles away from the bunker and they shamble towards the bunker. It takes upwards of like 7 minutes to get to round 4, which is fine on maps where there's stuff to do in them early rounds, like picking up parts and searching and stuff like that. But there's nothing to do on Nacht, where your gameplay is just based on your survival. And I feel like this map could be updated for modern audiences with some quality of life experiences, like some like kind of like what Die Machine does, which we'll discuss much later on down the line. A minor nitpick I have is that this map does not feature the usual leaderboard when you hit tab and you see your kills and your revives and stuff like that. It doesn't show that until the very end of the game when you lose. That's the only time you ever see your kills or your revives or anything like that, as far as I can tell. I did check the keybinds, I couldn't see anything on it, and pressing the keys didn't spawn one in. This is a very minor nitpick. It doesn't necessarily detract from the overall score of the map, but I did think I'd throw it out there. Sometimes I just like to see my kills, you know? You've been killing the zombies, let me see my kills. A major negative that I do have for this map, though, and all the World at War maps, in fact, is that you stick to the geometry and the zombies very easily. You basically feel like a magnet, and you get sucked into the walls and the zombies very easily. I don't like this, as it tends to lead to many downs that you could typically easily escape from in a later game, like even Black Ops 1. You could escape from zombies way easier than you can on World at War. You just stick to them and there's nothing you can do. This goes for the knife as well. The knife is a disaster, but that's kind of a generic sweeping statement about World at War in general rather than just specifically about Nacht. So take that into account when I'm talking about the maps further. This doesn't get fixed until the next game with Black Ops 1, where you feel less like a magnet. One final thing I'd like to talk about is the progression of the map, or should I say the lack of progression on the map. While the map cannot be blamed for this because it's the first ever map, I do have to take into account that I am reviewing these maps in the modern context and not in the context that they released in. And unfortunately, this map only being 3 rooms and having 1 box location, I have to say I'm not a fan of the progression. You get points, you open 1 door, and you've already found the mystery box. You don't even need to go to the 3rd room if you don't want to, because everything you need is in that 2nd room, which I think is just, it's not, it doesn't really encourage you to explore the rest of the map, because everything you need is already in the 2nd room that you open, depending on which route you take. This is not taking away from the gameplay style, as I know this is that particular gameplay style, so I will not remove points from the overall score based on the gameplay style because of this negative, but I did think it's a minor issue that I feel needed to be addressed in the review as I'm talking about it. So that is pretty much everything I have to say about Nacht. The videos for the larger maps will get much longer than this, so this is just a little teaser, you know, of things to come. I want to get into the placement on the tier list. Because the map has a fun, unique gameplay experience where you load into a really creepy map and just kill some zombies with very few restrictions, I do have to be fair and take into consideration of the negatives though while ranking this. And with all of this taken into account, I feel like Nacht belongs squarely in the C tier with around a 5 in a score. I won't be doing a score for all, but just to set a baseline, I think Nacht is a middle of the road in every definition of the word, unless you're only comparing it to the other survival maps of its same caliber, in which I think it might be slightly better. I could see this moving to D tier later on as more maps get added to the tier list, though, so we do have to keep in mind that this is not a permanent placement. So that's pretty much it for the first episode of the tier list and the Zombies ranking series, and I hope you all stick around for the whole series, as I think it could be entertaining, and I think it's just fun to get these conversations going. If you enjoyed, leave a like and a comment and subscribe to the channel to let me know that you did, and it'll let me know to keep going with it. And yeah, that's it. I will see you in the next episode where we talk about Erupt.